has a new security system. Completely mobile, user-friendly, and absolutely fail-safe. But something is going wrong.
Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. Because it is spooky season, I thought I'd do a couple of horror movies. Nobody else is doing that kind of thing in October, so I thought I would be the forerunner of this kind of stuff, because everybody I know who's a movie buff is not watching horror movies right now. And I've got two very different ones. I've got one from the 1980s, 1986, and I've got one from 2025, which shows how very different horror movies were in the 1980s compared to the 2020s. I'm going to start with the one from 2025 and work my way up to the one from 1986. And the 2025 movie I've got for you is part of the Twisted Childhood cinematic universe, which is a cinematic universe that occurred when public domain movies could be made with certain intellectual properties. It's in the same cinematic universe as the two Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies and the more recent Bambi, The Reckoning. And it is Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, made by the same people who made the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies. And when I reviewed the second one of those, I did say that the quality is going up with each movie. And that's indeed the case with Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. The original J.M. Barrie story, Peter Pan, is now in public domain, so it's open slather for anybody to make any kind of movie they want about it. They can make adult films, they can make pure adaptations of the intellectual property, or, as in this case, they can make a very gory but kind of interesting horror movie about it. This one was directed by Scott Chambers, who played Christopher Robin in the second of the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movies. And it's Peter Pan reinvented as a very, very nasty serial killer. Now, I'm going to grab some details here from IMDb, so bear with me. 15 years ago, Peter Pan worked in a fantasy-themed circus where he performed as a mime for children. After that show, he attempts to abduct a 6-year-old James Hook from his house. His mother, Roxanne, tries to stop him and is not successful. And then we cut to 15 years later, and Wendy Darling, who's the older sister of a couple of brothers called John and Michael. It's her brother Michael's birthday. Michael gets a bicycle, but Wendy drives him to school, and she's going to pick him up from school. Michael gets kidnapped by Peter Pan, and Peter Pan, we find out, is living in a big old abandoned house. And with him is someone called Tinkerbell. And Tinkerbell is somebody he kidnapped 15 years ago. Not James Hook, but another kid. And this kid has grown up to be a drug addict and a trans woman. And the trans part isn't seen as a pejorative. It's not done in any kind of creepy way. This woman, who's called herself Tinkerbell, is played by Kit Green, a trans woman in England who has done a whole bunch of stage work and other things. And there are a couple of non-binary people in the cast, and the director, Scott Chambers, is gay. So Wendy goes searching for Michael, and she's a determined person. She is gutsy and bold. She's the final girl in some ways in this movie. And we find out that Peter Pan kidnaps children to send them to Neverland. And we never quite find out what Neverland is, though the strong suspicion is that the children are ended and they don't go anywhere, in fact. This Twisted Childhood universe and all of the different stories in it, whether they be from Winnie the Pooh or Peter Pan or Bambi, are in the same universe, blazing their own trail through horror. You could make a few parallels between them and Damien Leone's Terrifier movies, but they are something very much of their own. And as the filmmaking becomes more adept and the budgets get higher, and this one had a £310,000 budget, they can get better actors, the special effects and particularly the gore effects can be done a lot more effectively. And that's showing in this movie. No, it's not for everybody. Of course it's not for everybody. Gory, aggressive horror movies are very niche in some ways, though there are a lot of horror movie fans out there. But this one does what it does quite well. You can tell by the way it's filmed that the child actors are kept away from a lot of the more extreme gore effects, and the child actors are very effective at what they do. You can sense that the makers of this film aren't traumatizing these kids at all. It's very much done in a respectful way. And I appreciate that. It's a very fine line you've got to draw there when you have child actors in quite extreme horror films. But this one does seem to do that very, very well. And the ways in which the movie reinterprets J.M. Barrie's story are imaginative. And we do find out what happened to James Hook as well. And that's part of the most monstrous parts of these movies. This is as extreme as English horror gets. It's not quite to the extent of the new French Extremity, which is just so basically grounded in reality that when the extreme horror happens, it blasts you in the head. This is a little less than that. This is for die-hard horror fans. I like the fact that they started out with the premise of finding intellectual properties in the public domain and making a movie, even those people didn't have any history making movies, particularly the man who runs the whole show, the producer, Rhys Frake Waterfield. They're getting better with each movie. I like that and I admire that. And they're getting better and better actors. And the stories are becoming more interesting as this cinematic universe progresses. This one's a recommendation for me. It's only 89 minutes. It's not going to use up your whole afternoon to see it. I do respect what they're doing, even though for a lot of people, they don't want childhood stories to be reinterpreted as horror films. And even people who do like horror films at a certain level may not enjoy this. And I'm fine with that. But if you are a horror movie fan, and if you like horror movies that don't shy away from body parts being amputated and other things like that, this does what it does very well. And the acting, as I said, is on point. Particularly Kit Green, who plays Tinkerbell. Incredible actress. Does a fantastic job and makes the character incredibly sympathetic. Martin Portlock, who plays Peter Pan, is frightening. And you can see some parallels between his character and there's a little bit of Heath Ledger's The Joker in there. And there's a bit more of Michael Jackson in there. And that makes it even creepier. Very nice acting. Megan Placido, who plays Wendy, is good as well. And some of the lesser roles done by actors who've worked in the Royal Shakespeare Company and other prestige venues like that. They are very, very good at what they do. And the acting is universally good. There's not a sour note in this one. So as I said, not for everybody, but if you're into horror, you might want to give that one a go. Umbrella have released it. I'm not sure whether it's on their Broly platform. I will check right now and come back to you. Yeah, it's not on Broly, but it's the sort of movie that would be on Broly. I do know that it is for sale from Umbrella Entertainment. I will post a link to that, even though they didn't send me a copy of it. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Check it out if you're so inclined. The second movie I've got for you is a 1980s horror film, an American one, which I love. It's a Jim Wynorski film from 1986. It's produced by Julie Corman, Roger Corman's daughter, and it is Chopping Mall. Fantastic techno-horror film. Very, very 1980s, and I love it. It's set in a shopping mall, and it doesn't get much more 1980s than a shopping mall. Really fun film. It stars Kelly Maroney, Tony O'Dell, Paul Bartel, and Mary Warrenov are in there right at the start, playing the same character, Paul and Mary Bland, that they played in Eating Raoul. You've got Barbara Crampton in there as well. You've also got Dick Miller playing Walter Paisley, his Walter Paisley character, as a janitor who gets killed by the baddies in this movie. And the baddies in this movie are 3 sentry robots that this shopping mall has put in to guard the shopping mall at night. The sentry robots have got laser beams, they've got tasers. On this particular night, when a group of young people are hiding out in a shop where one of them works so that they can have a party with their friends before the lockdown during the night, when big security doors slam down all around the shopping mall. They're having a party with beer and sex and all the fun things in the world. But that night, the shopping mall gets hit by lightning and the computer running these robots glitches and they become self-aware and they become murderous. And so these young people, and there are about 8 of them, start getting stalked and hunted by these killer robots, which are called protectors. And the robots are very 1980s. They're a lot of fun. They're not Terminators. They're on tank track kind of vehicles. They've got red laser eyes, kind of like Kit in Knight Rider. And they're deadly and can think their way around problems. So they are sentient. In a sense, I suppose you could say this is an AI movie as well. They've got tasers, they've got tranquilizer guns, they've also got laser beams, which, that's all you need for a sentry robot. And there has been talk at various times of remaking this film. So the setup's pretty fun. Robots are in there. One of the guys in the control room for the robots is played by Gerrit Graham, and it's a very small role. You remember Gerrit Graham playing Beef in The Phantom of the Paradise, amongst other things. And so these young people, Kelly Maroney and Barbara Crampton, work in a local diner inside the shopping mall. I'm not sure why they have a diner in a shopping mall. They usually have like food court areas, but this one has a diner for various reasons. And of course, this being a Jim Wynorski movie, there are boobs in it. Right at the start, there are sufficient boobs to keep any 1980s horror movie boy fan, or lesbian, or bisexual. Let's not be too judgmental about this or prescriptive. There are boobs at the start of the film.
Dusty substances.
And I kind of like that. Do like a little bit of boobs in my horror movies from the 1980s. The robots are very well done too, and one of the subtexts of the movies gives us is a critique of consumerism. This was made during the Reagan era in the United States. A lot of film critics have talked about it as a satire of consumerism. The shopping mall itself is great. It was filmed in, I've got it written down here, it was filmed in the Sherman Oaks Galleria in Los Angeles, and there are a whole bunch of very 1980s stores there. There's a record store called Licorice Pizza, which I really like the name of, and the movie sets out its premise very well. There are 3 levels of the shopping center and 3 robots, but the robots know how to use elevators. So you've got that, and at certain points it becomes like a computer game where you've got to dodge these robots, and the humans have to fight them. But fortunately, this is an American shopping mall. So if you go into the sporting goods shop, there are going to be guns, and they try to use guns, but the robots are kind of bulletproof. And there are camping equipment parts of the store, and they use propane tanks to fight the robots. So there are all of these things where they use what's in the environment to fight these killer robots, which don't have personalities, but they are lethal. And all of the guys in this are yuppie dudes pretty much with blow-dried hair, so you've got that going for them. There's a really nice mall montage, which is underneath the opening credits, which I appreciated because it ended up becoming a bit of a documentary. And there are little vignettes during that montage at the start, which set the tone for the movie because they're kind of humorous vignettes about there's a little kid who's eating an ice cream in the elevator and a whole bunch of people crowded, and when they come out again, the kid's got ice cream smeared all over himself. Little bits and pieces like that set the tone nicely. This is one of Jim Wynorski's best films. He's done a lot of low-budget horror films and TNA films, but this is among his best. I think it's very adept, and having Julie Corman as a producer really helps keep it where it needs to be. There's a pre-Die Hard bit where the women crawl through the ventilation ducts trying to escape the robots. But Barbara Crampton's character starts worrying about the guys, and they go back down again. She ends up getting killed. Spoiler. And one of the other things this movie's got going for it is Chuck Chirino's synth score, which has since been released on vinyl in the modern era, because I looked for this on JB Hi-Fi, and all I could find was the score to the movie. So the synth score has got a very good reputation as well. And it's perfect for this kind of movie set in a shopping mall in the 1980s. It just works. And it's incredibly satisfying as well. You can appreciate it even without the nostalgia of VHS era 1980s horror. If you're coming at it fresh as a younger person, you're still going to have a good time with it. And we do get Kelly Maroney as the final girl fighting the robots very effectively, because as she says about a third way through the film, Her dad's a Marine and has taught her a lot of things. So she knows how to handle this and very imaginatively uses the resources of the shopping mall to ultimately defeat the last robot. This one is just such fun, and it has got an enormous cult following in the years since. And I know it's had a Blu-ray release. I don't know if it's had a 4K release, but it's definitely had a Blu-ray release. But shopping mall, if you're looking for a movie to watch during the Halloween season, you should definitely put this one on your list. It's going to be a lot of fun for you. It's got the horror, it's got a little bit of gore, and it works very, very well. There's one head explodey a bit, but for the most part, the gore is very low key in this film. Apparently, the movie was test screened under the name Killbots, but they went with Shopping Mall, which I think is a much better 1980s title. But so that one is such fun, and if you haven't seen it, you should see it. I know it's on a couple of streaming services. I think Amazon have got it as well, so you might want to check it out. Now, that's what I got for you this time around. Two very, very different horror movies. And you can compare and contrast a horror movie of 2025 with one from 1986 and decide which one you like better. For me, Shopping Mall, but I admire what Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare does and the way it does it and how they're building something with this particular franchise. So thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can support the channel by becoming a channel member or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Next up, I've got Science Fiction Saturday. I've got some good stuff for that. Hopefully, I'll have some of the imprint releases, and there are some that very comfortably fit into Science Fiction Saturday then. So until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch some old horror movies, watch some new horror movies, and enjoy the spooky season. And I'll catch you next time.
Thank you.